So I want to talk about germophobia and what God has been revealing to me about my own germophobia and OCD. I've had germophobia my entire life. Some of it's generational, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the other areas that I found for me were linked to it. I realized these things when I was analyzing why I had germophobia. I realized that when things were tampered with in any sort of way, that my mind saw them as permanently tampered, permanently changed, permanently damaged. And I think after analyzing it, that I felt that way because so often in my childhood, things that I held dear, things that I loved, would be touched by somebody else or harmed, toys that I had taken by somebody else and damaged. And they were never the same. They were never repaired. They were never the same. And that's why I always gravitated towards new things that seemed clean, things that were factory ready, like from the factory. Like hand-me-downs were always so hard for me to wear. And there were only certain things that I deemed safe from thrift stores, even though I loved thrifting and antiquing. It was only specific things that I allowed myself to own or even touch. And even dishes, it's like I could never fully trust that they were clean. And like once a certain food would touch it, it's like, oh, it's tampered forever. And these feelings of irreparable damage being connected to why it was so hard for me to wash dishes. I always had somebody else do them because I knew, well, they aren't bothered by it, but it deeply affected me because it was like I was trying to clean something that was irreversibly damaged, and possibly it's now causing me to be irreversibly damaged. My hands are touching the damage, and that I can never be fully sure that the altered, new, disgusting state isn't altering me in a new, disgusting state like a parasite. And I think after analyzing this for a little while, it's really helped me disprove to myself these things that I thought were fact. Disprove these things that felt so innate within me. Sorry if the camera quality has gone downhill. This is now my phone instead of TikTok's camera, so this window is good lighting, but I kind of want to just sit down and chit chat, so let's see if I can find a good place that isn't too dark. I wonder if this is good. I've got a window on both sides of me, so there. So we'll see. But I had more thoughts about this. So along the same lines of irreversible damage, it kind of just came to me all of the ways that, like all of the other ways in life that psychologically affected me feeling that way. Of course, my property, having that as a child, the things that were my belongings being shared with somebody else. I mean, and this isn't to say anything, but the person that I shared a room with, one of my siblings, and for almost my entire childhood, and that sibling wasn't very nice to me. Let's just put it that way. And not like in a, like, siblings, you know what I mean? It's but even besides that, there were other people in my life. I mean, even when I go back to school, I was bullied so bad in school. So bad. I was the chubby kid in school, or I was a chubby kid in school. And the bullying, and bully to me is such a funny word, isn't it? Because yeah, like we talk about bullying and the extent of it, but really what bullying is trauma, is abuse. So, I mean, I hate the word bullying. I think it is so It undermines what it is. It's childhood abuse done by sometimes adults, but most of the time other children, which is sometimes even more psychologically damaging. Isn't that just the truth right there? So I think that that's such a silly word that we use for childhood abuse. But the amount of times that I would be in school, I mean, so often through elementary school, I hated school so much. I felt like I felt every day like, here I go again. Gotta go to prison. Sounds dramatic, but that is how I felt my entire childhood going to school. It's here we go again, talking about school. And I'm anti-school if you didn't know. Sorry. But not really. But the amount of times that, I mean, whether you're for school, against school, whether you are, whatever your feelings align with there, I mean, we've all, to some degree, probably been bullied. Even slightly. And, you know, the amount of times that I've had something that was my personal property stolen from me, taken from me, altered, because somebody else just felt like it. Having my kind heart taken advantage of. Having things that I viewed as pure and good and kind taken from me and turned not that way. It's kind of funny because, I mean, it's wild what we do. I'm going on a rant about school again, but it's wild what we do where we take kids from all over, all different backgrounds, all different lifestyles, all different family dynamics. Oh boy. I mean, you go over to your friend's house and it's like, whoa, I am transported into another world. Another world. Do that 20, 40 times. And we just put them in a box together and we say, have fun. And it's just, not to say that we shouldn't talk to and be around other people who live different experiences to us, but it's so baffling to me because, you know, I grew up in a household where we, like, a pretty, I want to say pure household, but like we don't make inappropriate jokes. And I still to this day, like, I'm so glad that my mom is like this because, like, and maybe I would have been like this no matter what, I don't know, it's hard to say, nurture versus nature. I feel like that topic comes up all the time, but I continually, like, still to this day, I just don't find, like, bathroom jokes very funny. I don't find sexual jokes very funny. Like, okay, like, I don't know, like, I'm just, maybe call me a prude, maybe I'm a prude, I don't know, but I just don't find that funny. And I find the things that are so good and pure and beautiful in life, I find value in keeping those things pure and good. And, you know, obviously I have taken that to the extreme extent where even things that aren't tampered, I associate with being tampered. But to some degree, you know, whatever. This is how I also was raised in a good way to some degree. But you go to school and everybody's like, I mean, you don't know what another kid is exposed to. You know what I mean? Like, you might think, no fourth grader, no, fourth graders are innocent. Fourth graders aren't going to understand the innuendos in a Disney movie. Excuse me, honey, fourth graders were making disgusting jokes when I was in school, okay? Like, it ain't like that. Like, do you remember fourth grade? I'm sorry, but like, I mean, the way my mom talks about fourth grade, it sounds pretty bad too, you know? Like, it's not as, I don't know why as adults we start to think that these things are so pure when they're not. And it's like, I mean, so now you're putting these children who weren't raised to put other people down, to make sexual jokes, to condescend, manipulate. You're putting those children in a room, enclosed space for 8 hours a day with other kids who do that, who have been raised to do that at an early age. And I mean, it's fine to, I think we should all be around other people to a certain extent to get used to other people. I don't think sheltering is a good idea, but I also think that we should be able to give people autonomy over who they are around, and putting children in this position and being like, you have no autonomy to be making choices over your body. I think that is so gross. And by body, I mean your own property. I mean, the amount of times I've had something stolen from me and then broken and then like, oops. No, sorry, no. I mean, it's not, why would they say sorry? They don't care. You know, the amount of times that I've had people kick me. What? Like, it's, maybe I should face this way. Is this better? Not really. My hair looks like it's still wet. Maybe this is better. Oh, this is actually not bad. It's wild. This is so much more natural, isn't it? So I think I'm going to talk like this. This feels so much better. What was I saying? But you know, there would be so many times where that would happen. You know, I remember this one time in particular, and I feel like this mirrors so much of what I've been talking about, where I think I was in 5th grade, and I had this Lisa Frank polar bear eraser. I loved this thing. I barely even used it because I was like, it's so cute. I would take it out every once in a while just to like erase like a little mistake, like oops, you know. And I just remember having it out. Maybe I'd been using it that day. Maybe I forgot another eraser. I don't know. But I had it out. And there was this girl in my class who she had mentioned that she likes polar bears before. But she was one of those people. I feel like we've all met one of these people who you could never predict. One day she'd be very nice. And then the next day she would be nasty, like real nasty, and you're like I can't read you, I don't understand you at all. And I remember her being very nice in that moment, and we were doing like a test, and she was whispering, and she said she was asking me like, could I please use your eraser, please, I really need it for this test, like, I promise I'll give it right back to you. Like all this stuff. And she seemed really like in a dire need for an eraser at that moment. And I reluctantly, but I was like, you promised to give it back to me? Okay. And then I gave it to her, and then when she ended up giving it back to me, because I asked her, I was like, hey, can I have my eraser back? And it had been mangled in such a way, like a million pencil stabs in it. And just and just things like that all the time. And it's funny because, like, I think a lot of parents, man, me just going on and on about school, what are you gonna do? It's life. These are where our developmental stages happen. But it's funny because when we go home, most of us, if our sibling, let's say, destroys one of our toys, our parents sort of mediate it. We have somebody there being like, okay, this is how we handle these emotions. This is how I mean, for the most part, a lot of us don't, which is, another thing, but most of us do. Most of us have a parent that's going to be like, okay, like, and you apologize to this person, and do you genuinely apologize? And how would you feel in that situation? Or like, really think about this for a second. Like, think about the property damage that you've done to this person. And when you're at school, it's like no man's land. No teacher. I mean, props to you if you're a teacher out there listening. I don't know. And you do this, but no teacher that I have ever came across is going to stop everything, stop their teaching lesson, and say, ma'am, that was extremely rude. Like, what are they even gonna do about it? That's rude. Oh, sorry. What are they gonna do? Even if a teacher did have this lesson, I think it's so sad. And I think maybe psychologically that also brings us to this like psychological lesson where, okay, family, I expect more from family. Because at home, most of us are taught to some degree that that's not okay. Give your brother back their toy. I can't believe you broke that person's toy. That's on purpose. Like, I think that's pretty gross or pretty unacceptable in this household. And that shows us, okay, so family harming us or family taking things from us, well, that's at least somewhat not allowed. Now, other people encroaching on us, well, that's another thing, because that's been a no man's land in my experience. We've just been out here in the Wild West, okay? Like, nobody's remediating this. Nobody's being the mediator for this. I have to be out here on my own. And as a child, to have to step up to the plate and use your voice, anyway, it's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's all kind of connected to at least why I personally felt like this affected me down the line. And I have strong OCD tendencies, and I don't mean that like OCD. I mean, like, since I even was a child, I had these like weird, strong tendencies, and again, some of those generational, but some of them not. Some of them brought on from childhood, some of them whatever. And I think it's so fascinating. I've been having this not revelation, but like these newfound connections about them, about what this means, about why this is. Analyzing where this came from. Because I will not have this forever. I think there was a long period of time in my life, most of my life, where I was like, well, this is just who I am. I guess I'm a germaphobe. I will try my best to be independent. I got myself as an adult to wash dishes, and be able to wash things and clean things. but not without being in a complete adrenal hypersensitive state. Truthfully, I mean, honestly, I mean, it's wild how deeply it would affect me. It's like I have to, like, I feel physically like I had to hold my breath. Like, I just cannot wait for this to be done. And I'm just so thankful that God in this moment has told me that that's not going to be your life anymore. You don't have to just accept that that's the way life is going to be, because that's unnatural, and it is preventing me from living life as free as I could be. Maybe a lot of you guys relate to that. I mean, I don't know. Who's to say, really? And you know, another huge lesson that I learned is that I actually learned a lot of this in mold while I was like the last few years in toxic mold, is the joy in repairing. Which, you know, you can kind of see how that tied to my healing from mold, but it also helped me in so many other ways, including my germophobia. Because during that time, I was thinking so in depth about how to alleviate some of these problems in my life, and being so afraid of things being broken in life. To such a high degree, and always wanting things new, wanting things clean, and then wanting things like perfect, picture perfect, and then being forced to live in a disgusting, toxic environment with no escape for years and years. After a while, who's changing? In that situation, in every situation, something has to change, right? Nothing stays stagnant forever. And so in those moments, I was like, well, the mold ain't going away until something happens and we move out of here. And I can't stay the same and be sane in this household. I cannot. Something will change, and it's either going to be I'm insane or I grow for the better. Which is it going to be? Which is it going to be, Lord? And he used that thought pattern for his divine benefit and really changed my soul and my spirit. Oh, and it was connected to a whole bunch of, I mean, man, this is a whole other topic that I could go down, but I'm going to try to connect it back to the germophobia. But I mean, I wanted everything picture perfect back then, like pre-mold and early days of mold. I was like, give me a big Victorian, but like spotless, clean. Like, it better be like, wow, they live in that. And like, I wanted these big, grand, larger than life things. I wanted everything clean and new. I was like, when I'm successful, everything's gonna be clean, everything's gonna be new, and when I thrift, everything's gonna look at least new and polished. And even my style was like, I love everything to be polished. Even if I'm like nature, it's gotta be like aesthetic nature, like cutesy. You know what I mean? Like, and I loved that polishedness. And I think I have a video talking more in depth about the mold side of that topic, but then he started changing me from within, and I began to start to appreciate things that were broken. Ooh, oh, I was not planning on doing this, but I think I'm going to show you my kintsugi that I made. Just a second. So this is my kintsugi. I put all my paintbrushes in it. And apparently these little wood knobbies I put in it too, but I don't need any of that. Please do not fall. Ooh, ew! Well, disgusting. my kintsugi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Ew. Look, y'all, this is as real as it gets around here. I just killed a bug with my kintsugi mug. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but I did. Ugh. It's like one of those like real nasty looking beetles. And my response right now, hey, caught it in 4K on camera, okay? My response right now is a blessing, because old me would have been like, oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna puke. Like, I'm so disgusted. You know what I mean? Ew, it's like still moving. It's like really trying to hang on for dear life, eh? Like, sorry, bud. Anyway, this is my kintsugi mug. It represents, fixing things and turning things into something more beautiful when they've been broken. And you can do that. Not everything is broken and shattered forever. Things can be repaired and turned into something more beautiful. So that's the aftermath of the bug I just killed. Okay. Anyway, so back to my talk about my kintsugi mug, because you guys, I mean, I didn't really explain what that was. So kintsugi is, oh, I should know this. I think it's Japanese art form that involves taking a piece of broken pottery and repairing it by using a special way of gluing the pieces back together and then putting gold leaf on top of it and overlaying it and turning it into a piece of art. And it's supposed to symbolize turning something that was once broken into something beautiful, into a new purpose. And I mean, you're supposed to take something that you've actually broken, you know, you don't want to just go around breaking things. It's supposed to be like with the intent and the purpose. And I had been wanting to do this for so long with something, but I didn't have anything that was broken, and I wasn't going to go around breaking things. Like, I knew it had to be for a purpose. And because I had seen this art form and I thought it was so cool and so beautiful, and I wanted to learn how to do it. And I had been so broken. I had just gotten out of mold toxicity, like literally a month out of the house that gave me mold toxicity, I'll put it that way. And I finally was, you know, healing a lot of the awful patterns of my mind. And in that time, I was dealing with a lot of these thoughts of analyzing everything that had just happened, and all of the emotions that came with that. And I went into a store and accidentally knocked into something, and it broke this mug. And throughout my life, as a kid, I had been called, ironically, because I have so many breakable objects. Like, I am the queen of breakable objects. I love like ornate things, and I collect music boxes, and I have since before I was born. So, but people have always called me clumsy, and I, in that moment, almost reverted back to calling myself clumsy, even though it's like, I had just been in toxic mold for 4 years, and I had just gotten out, and I had just gone through this resilient time in my life, and I almost was going to revert back to that. And I, for a moment there, was feeling feelings of like, wow, I just caused irreversible damage on this, and I just, like, oh, I can't believe I did that, and why? And like, just this really saddened part of like, wow, and I made this mug not become what it was before because of my clumsiness, right? But before I got to woe is me, of course, we picked up the pieces of the mug. We went in and we bought it. And I was like, I guess I'll use this for my benefit. Like, I don't know if it was right away when I started thinking that, or if it was like, it clicked to me when I got home or something. I don't remember, but I was like, I could use this as my first kintsugi mug. And it was perfect because those were all the feelings that I had been having, like irreversible damage that I have done, or irreversible damage in life. And I'd been thinking that about my mold because we had just gone through toxic mold, and a big part of me was also thinking, like, is this irreversible damage that it has caused me and us? But instead, God helped me turn that into a resourceful, beautiful piece of art. And now it holds my paintbrushes and apparently beetles. But I love it. And it's not perfect. It's my first ever, so I can't blame myself. But it was such a nice process, and I recommend it to anybody feeling like they need that lesson, because it was such a beautiful process. I had experienced such a peace and such a victory. Yahweh had gotten us out of toxic mold, which was a miracle, an absolute miracle. And I was just able to spend time just spending time doing this. It was like this beautiful little project. Here's the inside portion that I did. Oh. And it like shimmers in the sun. Ugh, and I love it. And I got around there. And I think it's pretty cool. So it was like one of the most peaceful projects, I was kind of able to just sit there at the dining table and just paint this and glue it together and think about repairing things and how things aren't irreversible while I was doing it. I really made sure to like spend that time like thinking about it as I was concentrating, and it was lovely and I loved it. So, and in that time, this was a big learning curve for me, like a big learning lesson. And in it, I also began being interested. I think you kept changing my heart to not. Oh, Sophie, come on. I know. She wants my attention so bad. Here, put my mug back. Okay, come on up. And this is Sophie. Wow. Is that all you wanted? Yeah. All right. Anyway. But during this time, he was working on my heart in another way too, which was working on resilience and working on finding beauty in the repairing. I'd never thought that in my life. I never liked DIY. I actually hated like DIYing things yourself and the independence that gave people. I didn't understand. I didn't understand how people could find that so liberating to do things on your own and to repair things and to do DIY and to gain these skills. I was like, who needs those skills? Just pay somebody else who finds value in doing those skills. Or, I wanted to be that person. Like, I live in a big fancy house and I pay other people to do my work because those people value it. I don't, but good for them, and I need them, but that's fine, that's just how the world works, whatever. And he changed that to such a high degree in me that now I can't even believe that I was like that, because the independence that you gain is so valuable. And I don't know how I could ever explain that to somebody else who currently is how I used to be. I don't even know how to explain that or convince them how valuable that is, but it's so valuable. Gaining skill, gaining independence, gaining all of that. And knowing that these things are repairable. And sometimes they even turn out better because they're meldable, they're moldable. Do you see how this all connects? Like, for example, I would think, like for that mug, old me connecting to, you want to go back in your mind and connect this to the germophobia. Ooh, that mug tampered forever. That mug broken, tampered. It's not a mug anymore. It's not a usable mug where I can drink tea out of. It's done. It's done for. Like, it's sad that happened. And like, ugh. Throw it in the trash, I guess. Like, it's sad. I loved it. My heart's broken about it. But it will never be the same. But now, my wheels have been turning. And I see it as, wow, but now it's a new form of art. And if anything ever happens to it again, it's going to turn into another form of art. And another form of art. And even if, like, and it gains my experience every time. So it's this workable object now. And I can think about this in all sorts of aspects of life, this correlates to other aspects of life where like in the brokenness, you can learn skills, and in those skills, you can create something new, and you can create a workable project where even if that thing broke down so far that it didn't even resemble a mug anymore, and the pieces seemed so torn apart that they couldn't even be glued back together. Well, guess what? That's another piece of pottery, and you can make a completely different art form with it that you had never even thought of before. And now your mind is changed and altered because you see things different. You've already had experience here changing something in a way that you've never seen it before. And so now you can do that with other things. And now it's a meldable, continual flow of new life. And it can be that forever and ever. And it became, like, all of these thoughts were coming to me, and I started becoming more interested in survivalist things and living off grid. I never wanted to live off grid before. I was like, excuse me, why would I want to suffer? But now I see that as liberating. You get freedom from that. Living off grid or living rurally and gardening and planting things on your own and all of that, And with that also came my newfound lack of germophobia. I don't know how to put that. I have come out of that to such a high degree. And I don't see things as irreversibly broken, and therefore I can get in there and get my hands dirty and wash a dish. And I can get in there and I can clean something or put on another person's clothing item. Other people used to say, and my mom says this, but she, like, and I've heard a lot of other people on, like, TikTok say this, that, like, oh, I love wearing my friends' clothes because it's like I'm, like, wearing a part of them around, and I never understood that, but my mind is starting to get me to that place. It's pretty amazing all of the ways that analyzing our flaws can affect us. And I could go on and on and on, but I won't. So, toodaloo, and have a wonderful day.